Now that we've looked at how atoms look when they are single atom Lewis dot structures, let's go ahead and show bonding. Now, this is very rare, but this molecule, HCl, could be described as ionic or covalent. So it's a good one to show the example of the different ways in which you would write an ionic versus a covalent bond using Lewis dots. Remember, in both cases, chlorine was to be 8. Hydrogen is an exception you'll find about soon enough, but it can only fit 2 electrons, so it attempts to reach 2. Almost all of the elements are aiming for 8. It's just that hydrogen's a little bit of an exception. So when they are neutral, hydrogen has 1 dot because it's in this first energy level right here. Chlorine, again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and chlorine's in here. So chlorine has 7. 1, 2, 3. You can do this singly. It'd probably be better that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to repeat that over here so we can indicate both types of bonds. So for an ionic bond, remember ionic bonds are about transferring electrons. And so what has to happen with the ionic bond is that this electron right here, it has to be transferred to that chlorine atom. So you end up with a total of your 8 electrons around the chlorine, and hydrogen ends up with no electrons. And notice that this is hydrogen plus now, and this is chlorine minus. So now these two ions are attracted to each other because of their positive and their negative charges. Now if we're looking at the covalent bonding, remember this is all about sharing electrons. So it means that this electron and this one, the ones that both have an open spot, they're going to come together into the middle of the molecule and they're going to be shared. I'm going to draw it with 2 dots, and I'm going to go ahead and leave the electrons around the chlorine atom. And then we use lines to represent shared electrons. So I'm going to turn that into a line. And that's our covalent bond right there. So you see the difference in the 2 styles of bonding. So go ahead and draw the molecules as Lewis dot structures. So we have this one and this one. Determine which is covalent and which is ionic first based on the locations on the chart. I'll give you a pause. Pause the video and go ahead and draw those molecules or compounds. You should have gotten that this was covalent and that this was ionic. So when you draw your chlorines, remember there was an extra electron here and like here, and both of them come together to form the bond. So every time we draw a line like this, there are only 2 electrons ever in any little line drawn like this. So those are 2 electrons. Now MgCl2, remember here was Mg, put those little dots in there, and then we had Cl, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You should pair them first instead of the way that I'm showing it. Cl, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, I've got an empty spot here and an empty spot there. So notice my electrons, one's going to go to each spot. So this one will go there, and this one will go there. Now, don't try to figure out exactly where all the electrons will go, because sometimes an element will have a little bit of extra electrons, and it might be willing to give up more than an electron, more than like 1 or 2 electrons. And you don't really want to exactly think of it like that. But the way you would draw it is Mg, 2+, and then you would have chlorine minus.